Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wellness in the Real World. I'm Dr. Natalie Grunwald. This is a podcast about what we think we know about health and well-being and what the evidence and practice actually tells us. Every episode, I sit down with a researcher or practitioner and we really dig into a topic that matters. Today, we're talking about workplace well-being. It's a phrase that's everywhere right now, but I think there's a real gap between what organizations say they're doing for their people and what actually we know that makes a difference. Wellness programs, apps, lunchtime webinars, step challenges, all of these things get implemented every day. But are they really changing workplace culture? And if not, what can really move the needle? So my guest is Chase Sterling. She's someone I've looked up to for years when it comes to workplace well-being. She is the founder and executive director of the Wellbeing Think Tank, which is a nonprofit. She's also a principal consultant at HHP Cultures, where she partners with organizations to build whole person well-being. And she is a U.S. Army veteran. She's an MA in industrial and organizational psychology, and she focused on kind of occupational health psychology. She's got over 20 years of experience in this field, including roles at top companies such as Cigna, the Wounded World Project, and Google. She's also a certified wellness practitioner, but she brings deep professional experience with powerful lived experience that she will tell you a little bit more about today.
Okay.
Hi, Chase. Welcome to Wellness in the Real World. It's a delight to have you on today. How are you doing?
Natalie, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and chat with you and your community.
Good. Well, I just did a little summary of your incredible experiences and backgrounds and talked a little bit about your well-being think tank. But would you mind doing just a little introduction for our guests today as well?
Sure. My name is Chase Sterling. I currently live in Portland, Oregon. With my cat Fizz, who's
Mhm.
down here napping right now. And I've spent most of my career in workplace well-being. I started my career really in individual and community health and wellness. I ended up transitioning into workplace well-being, and I'm really passionate about how do we create environments at work that don't cause harm. So we spend so much of our lives at work, and life is hard enough. Work shouldn't make it any harder. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I founded Wellbeing Think Tank. And we're a 501c3 public charity. And we're really focused on providing accessible, evidence based education to help individuals and organizations create cultures of well being that support not just individual health, but also organizational health. So we can have that. We can have high performing organizations that are supporting the individuals that are helping that performance happen. So, keeping individuals happy and healthy so we can have thriving workplaces and economies as well. So that's kind of my jam.
Well, love to hear that. Incredible background, personally, professionally, and really aiming to bring the evidence of workplace well-being and show people how you can perform well and and have well-being in the workplace as well, which I think many employers recognize. They think that these two cannot coexist.
And they
So yeah, and you're here to talk to us about how this can how these two can coexist, and that is the topic of our podcast today, which is really the truth about workplace well-being. It's a huge topic. Chase and I could probably talk for hours with all of her experience, but we're going to go with a few questions today to really bring her insight into the forefront today. So the first thing I'd like to just talk about is, you built Wellbeing Think Tank on the principle of really amplifying experts over influencers, and I know that's kind of a phrase you use quite a bit, and I really appreciate that. So why does this distinction matter so much within workplace well-being? What happens when what you've seen in practice or in the evidence when organizations get their advice on well-being from the wrong sources?
Gosh, yeah, I'm very passionate about. I always have these stickers right by me, our little like
Love that.
experts over influencer stickers. Like
Love
we
it.
have
Yeah.
shirts and everything. People love
Yeah.
it. And I think that's the thing. It's there are people, this is a profession, and there are people like you and I who have dedicated our careers from the educational aspect, getting
Mhm.
education, getting credentials, getting certifications, trainings, also doing the work, so the applied experience. And you have to have one piece of it. I will say, when I talk about experts over influencers, there's a lot of nuance because
Mhm.
we don't want to shift into what I call toxic academia and become really
Yeah.
exclusionary. For
Yes.
instance, you
Love
can't publish unless you're a PhD. And there are a lot of practitioners who are doing amazing work
that.
and
Mhm.
moving the needle, but
Mhm.
their work can't be elevated in the same way
Mhm.
because they're not a PhD, and that's a whole
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
And so you can have formal education and you can
Mhm.
have applied experience. And I
Mhm.
think the best combination is when you can get a little bit of both. And So expertise comes in many forms, and it also means everyone needs to have a seat at the table. That's another reason
Mhm,
why.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
So you don't have to have any experience. As long as you care about this
mhm,
work, you can be involved, because we need every voice at the table,
mhm, mhm,
because there's so much diversity, right?
mhm,
We all want
mhm,
different
mhm,
things. We all define
mhm,
well-being
mhm,
differently.
mhm.
But yeah, I think when it comes to experts over influencers, especially in this age of media, anyone can have a podcast. Anyone can,
Yeah, yep.
turn on their webcam and like create
Mhm,
these things. And
mhm,
I think what's really challenging is experts tend to have humility. We tend to be a
mhm,
little bit more humble, and we
mhm,
also tend to
mhm.
phrase things in not hooky ways.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, the best practice is this, or well, you could do this, but then there's this model.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
it's not all you need to do is this. And
Wellness
so I
hacks.
like to say, and I know you hear me say it all the time, Natalie, is when it comes to well being at work, all you need to do is everything, because
Yeah.
everything is impacting our health and well being at work. So a lot
Yes,
of
yes, you see
people,
it everywhere.
it's everything. So a lot of people are like, all you need to do is this. All you need to do is this program or this training
Mhm,
or buy this
mhm,
product, and like it's
mhm,
gonna fix everything. And I'm like,
mhm,
well, not really.
mhm.
That's not as sexy. Like,
It's
so
not, it's not.
it's not, yeah, it's not heavy marketing. It's not sexy. So it's like,
Mhm,
how do we really elevate the work of experts and make it more palatable? Like,
mhm,
and we do have this divisiveness that we saw, during the pandemic of like, well, you don't know everything. So experts need to remember, yeah, I'm an expert. And also I don't know everything. Things are
yes.
always
Yeah,
changing, like they're always
yeah,
evolving. So
yeah.
we get new
Mhm,
information, we have to change.
mhm,
So I think I really want to elevate the voices of experts in our
mhm,
industry. A lot
mhm,
of some of our presenters are known and might have contributed to
mhm,
research or written a book. I also really like to elevate the voices of people, just the practitioners, the
mhm,
professionals who are out
mhm,
there doing
mhm.
this. I've invited people to present and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you think I'm an expert?" I'm like, "Yes,
Aw,
you've been doing this for this
yeah.
long." Like, yes, please. Like, you have all this experience, you have all these stories to share.
Mhm,
And it's like,
mhm.
that's how we learn, is through the storytelling.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I really wanted to elevate that and really
Mhm,
provide a space where, if you're in business, if you're in HR, if you're in
mhm,
workplace well-being, if you come to Wellbeing Think Tank, our tagline is education you can trust, inspiration that you need, and
mhm,
resources
mhm.
so you can take action. So
Aw,
we have a strict vetting process for our presenters. Like, our
okay.
presenters have some kind of background or applied
Mhm.
experience or both. They
Yes.
have to have a certain amount of experience to present,
Mhm.
and really focusing on those takeaways. So, a 60-minute educational session is not going to change your life, but if you can get
No.
one nugget that you can apply,
Yeah.
then I think that was worth it.
Yeah.
So that's what we really focus on. So I think this conversation is really important in this time, just where we're at. I think from a media perspective and
Absolutely.
information and learning, like, how can
Mhm,
you trust what you're
mhm,
seeing? How do you
mhm,
know that this
mhm,
is okay? And
mhm.
yeah, so that was a very convoluted answer,
Well,
but
you covered many bases there, and I really appreciate it. And I'm all about, experts over influencers, but also not that toxic academia. And that is like, I think, a unique tension to bring up and that there's expertise comes in many forms. And despite,
yes,
you being extremely well qualified and experienced in workplace well-being, you recognize that certain things are not perhaps in your wheelhouse, and you signpost to others when necessary. And I think that that is a sign of a true expert, and kind of leads into what I want to ask you next, which is, I love this quotation that you said: at a bare minimum, workplaces should not cause harm. I'm going to repeat that for everybody and let that sink in. So, at a bare minimum, workplaces should not cause harm. That's a really powerful kind of baseline. So, how many organizations, in your opinion, from your understanding, are meeting this, or are there some shining examples? And what does harm
gosh.
look like when it's built into the systems and the structures rather than just individuals' behavior?
Well, I think it is very oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to think of the word aspirational
Yeah, I
to
know, I
have
know.
relationships that don't cause harm. Like, if I start to get into my like very nuanced brain, it's like, well, every workplace is probably going to cause harm. We're humans.
Yeah,
We mess
yeah,
up,
yeah,
make
yeah.
mistakes. We there's a difference between intentional harm
Hmm.
or an unintentional harm,
Hmm.
and also taking the steps needed to try to not cause harm.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
harm may happen. accidents happen when we think
Mhm,
about
mhm,
safety.
mhm,
We're
mhm,
humans, we say the wrong thing.
mhm.
As a leader, people will tell you I'm the worst manager they've ever had and the best. Like, it's like, and they're both correct because I've made a lot of mistakes in my career. It's like I fail up. I probably fail at something every week, if not every day. But yeah, how do we try to build a workplace where we're trying to not cause harm? And
Mhm,
so we're
mhm,
really looking at our policies, the physical
mhm,
environment, what training and resources are we
mhm,
providing our supervisors, our managers, our leaders so they can try to lead well? What resources are we giving them for themselves? And then
mhm,
also so
mhm,
they can support their teams.
mhm,
How
mhm,
are we measuring
mhm,
success?
mhm.
But I always say, imagine a world where you left at work every day, you felt good. Like,
Yeah.
it's if we could get to that, imagine the
Mm,
ripple
mm,
effect that would
mm,
have
mhm,
into our home lives. You would be a better parent, a better partner, a better pet
mhm,
parent like me, or a
mhm.
plant mom or
My
dad.
parent, like me.
Yeah, it's like, but then you're probably more likely to care for yourself. When you have a bad
Yeah,
day at work,
yeah,
you're less
yeah.
likely to move your body, to nourish your
Yeah,
body,
oh
to
yeah.
really,
Mhm,
prioritize your own
mhm,
health and well-being.
mhm, mhm.
And that creates what I call the downward spiral of health, where we
Mm.
get into these bad, kind of
Oh
continuous
yes.
habits.
Yeah.
But then it also going to we're going to have less road rage. We might, I don't know,
Yeah,
people might be
yeah,
nicer in the grocery stores. Like, we know
yeah.
everyone has lost their minds since the pandemic, and it's like,
Mm.
hello, could we, but everyone's so miserable and grumpy, and we're in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
loneliness epidemic and this
Yep,
stress, and we're
yeah,
in this
yeah.
horrible economy right now. It's like, how do we get back to baseline? So if you come into work at a 5, at a bare minimum, you should leave at a 5.
I
Work
love that.
shouldn't bring you
Yeah,
down to a
yeah,
3.
yeah, yeah.
In an ideal world, what if you went into work and then you and I connected, and we talked a little bit, and then maybe I left work at a 7,
Wouldn't that be
because
nice? Yeah,
that would be so nice, and we can get there. I
yeah,
don't think I could like list an organization that's doing this, because I just don't know behind the curtain. Like,
yeah. Oh
I
yeah, yeah. What's
yeah, it's always funny to me because I lived and worked in Silicon Valley for a while, and a lot of people will like elevate these companies and be like, "Ooh, look at what this company is doing." Just because a company is profitable does not mean it's a healthy organization.
100%. Yes.
Profitability is a metric, but
Hmm.
I think attrition is like a big sign of
Yeah,
organizational health. Like,
yeah,
how long are people staying there?
yeah,
And
yeah.
looking at things like CEO wage gap. So, like,
Mm,
are you
hmm.
measuring the gap between your
Yeah,
lowest wage
yeah.
employee, your highest? Are people being paid a living wage per the MIT
Hmm,
living wage
hmm, hmm,
calculator? it's
hmm,
there's
hmm,
a lot of
hmm.
things in there, and that is the baseline. And I think that's one of the problems with workplace wellness is I do say that there is a difference between workplace wellness and workplace well-being,
I'd love to
especially,
have your clarity on that.
yeah, especially in the United States. So in the United States, where I live, where we are right now, when I talk about workplace wellness, that is defined in the Affordable Care Act. Workplace
Hmm,
wellness is really health promotion
hmm,
programs.
hmm,
It's really about helping
hmm,
individuals with their
hmm,
health and
hmm,
well-being. Workplace well or with their health and wellness, I should say. And
hmm,
then workplace well-being is
hmm,
everything else.
hmm,
It's
hmm,
all the systems
hmm,
work.
hmm,
So part of our logo at Think Tank is individual and organizational well-being. So
hmm,
we want to try to change the system, but you
hmm.
still need to support the
You
individual.
do, you do.
And I think I also built Think Tank to break down silos in the industry.
Hmm,
So many
hmm,
of us
hmm,
start on the individual side. I know you have a rich background, Natalie, in helping individuals with their health
hmm,
and well-being, which we need that. We want to
hmm,
provide people with education
hmm,
and
hmm.
resources and tools. But what is within the workplace's control? So as a
Absolutely,
workplace,
yeah.
your job is not to fix people. Your job is
100%.
not
Yeah.
to parent your employees or
Yeah.
anything, but it's about how do you look in the mirror and say,
Hmm,
okay, as a workplace, how do
hmm,
we create an environment
hmm,
that
hmm,
supports the health and
hmm,
well-being of our
hmm.
workforce? That is within your control. You can't
Yes,
control
yeah.
individual behavior, but you control organizational, again,
Mhm, mhm,
policies,
mhm,
environment.
mhm, mhm,
So
mhm.
benefits and programs are a piece of the puzzle, but they're
Yeah.
not the entire puzzle. And I think the two biggest problems organizations face is from a financial
Mhm,
aspect is the cost of healthcare, and then the
mhm,
cost of attrition, engagement, productivity, all of those
mhm,
things. And we
mhm.
silo these problems.
Yes,
So
yeah.
do these
100%.
health promotion things over here, but
Mm.
we're not uncovering why these things are happening in the first place, which lives in systems.
Yeah.
So I'll see systems people say things like, oh, yoga classes are silly, or, these things are, why do you need this? And I'm like, well, why not both? Why can't we
Mhm.
have good
Yeah.
wages and to
Yeah.
party. I love
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
food. I mean, I
Yeah.
would like
Yeah.
to party. I
Yeah.
also need to be
Yeah.
treated well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think workplace well-being is a yes and game. So
Yes, 100%.
yeah, organizations tend to get very squirrel with trends.
Hmm.
So I like to use, the pandemic as an example of here's what we were doing with workplace wellness. Then mental health became a big focus. Okay, but what happened is we're going to stop investing in these things. So
Hmm.
we saw a lot of physical activity programs go away. We saw
Yeah.
a lot of that go away, and let's just focus on mental health. But we know physical and mental are connected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's so again, we want to keep those things going. And yes, and let's
Mhm.
also,
Mhm.
how do we break down the stigma
Mhm.
of mental
Mhm.
health, provide
Mhm.
psychologically safe
Mhm.
workplaces? Like
Mhm.
how do we
Mhm.
do this? So
Mhm.
workplace wellness is usually I'm talking about ACA compliant wellness
Mhm.
design.
Yeah.
We might be talking about incentives. I'm talking about all the legalities that go into that,
Mhm.
health promotion, health
Mhm.
plans, all that stuff. Then workplace well-being is kind of everything else. And
Yeah.
Think Tank, we talk about both. We talk about everything because it's everything.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That is
That was a
a
lot.
huge,
I'm
that is a
very
lot of
verbose.
no, it's a lot of information. It's a really really good summary. And one thing I wanted to kind of pick up on was the kind of dichotomy between the systems thinkers and the individual level behavior change experts. And my passion is kind of like, showing how these things can work together. We need all the levels, and we
Yes,
need it within the whole whether you want to use a socio-ecological model or a systems think math, we need all the players, all the layers involved. And just because, an employer cannot fix the stock market or the economy or, where we're at culturally, politically in the country, it doesn't mean we should just, throw our hands up and we say that we can't take action. One small example that I mentioned recently in a work environment that I was in was one of the managers wanted to recognize employees' birthdays. And one of the CEOs didn't really understand how that aligned with workplace well-being. And I said, well, we know that when people feel like they matter, that's transformative in the workplace. And I know that's something that you talk about a lot is mattering, meaning purpose, and
yeah.
just that sense of community. This wasn't on my list of questions, but I wondered if you could maybe just talk a little bit about community mattering, why that matters in the workplace, and what it means for the bottom line.
Absolutely. There's so much research on belonging, and belonging has been shown to be the lead factor
Mhm.
of well-being. I mean, I think we've all experienced a time where we've walked into a room and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I do not belong here."
Yeah, yeah.
And some of us have felt that in our workplace. And unfortunately, a lot of us have. If you're going into an environment every day where you feel like you don't belong, your
Hmm.
values aren't aligned, it's going to cause conflict and strife. It's going to impact your mental health. It's going to impact
Yeah,
your physical health. So it's like not every workplace is for everyone.
yeah,
So I
I
think,
think that's important.
again, this is a responsibility of a workplace. I
Hmm.
used to use the airlines as an example, but the airlines are
Okay.
kind of a mess now, girls. So it's hard. But I used to be like, you have such a different experience, right? You go on one airline, here's the experience. You go on this
Yeah,
airline,
I
here's
love
the
that.
experience.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
employees interact differently, they dress
yeah,
differently. Like it's very
yeah,
casual on some, very buttoned up on
yeah.
others. There's no one right culture.
Sure,
But
sure.
as an organization, it's how do we operate? What are our core values? How,
Mm.
and then that's going to
Mhm.
attract people who work
Mhm.
well in that environment.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's where we see friction or like it doesn't fit because,
Mhm.
yeah, there's not values alignment.
Mhm.
You're not connected.
How it
Like,
affects bottom line.
yeah, what does the first 90 days look like at an organization?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
and outside of like traditional HR
Mhm.
onboarding, like,
Mhm.
what are
Mhm.
we doing to really create, like, or I love, you just mentioned birthdays. It's like, is that something like, if you were my supervisor and I started, like, do you ask me about my birthday? Do you ask me, how do you like to be recognized? Do you like public
Love that.
praise? Do you like
Yeah,
it behind
yeah,
closed
yeah,
doors?
yeah, yeah,
Because maybe I hate my birthday and I don't want you to ever tell me happy birthday.
yeah.
And so how do we have those conversations
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
we can really
Mhm.
recognize what
Mhm.
individuals need? There's
Mhm.
a big difference between
Mhm.
fitting in and belonging. So we
Mhm.
all do that thing to fit in, and I
Mhm.
call it corporate chase. So like, if I need to be in a very corporate environment, I can
Yeah.
fit in. I can be very buttoned up. I can do these things. And it's like, but this is very taxing. It's masking, which we
Yeah.
talk about a lot.
Mhm.
It's not really me. So I can do it to fit
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
but then
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't really belong there. Like I've been
Mhm.
shown that I
Mhm.
don't belong because this is how it is. So yeah, I think organizations have a responsibility to create an environment, but
Mhm.
I think that's the thing too, is not every workplace is for everyone.
Yeah.
Like I've worked at a workplace that like, it didn't work for me. It's not a
Mhm.
bad
Mhm.
work workplace.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
great for a lot of
Mhm.
people. And it's always so funny to me. Like, I chose to leave, and then there's all this like conflict and strife, and like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I was like, dude, this just doesn't work for me. I'm like, I'm not, and these
Mhm.
are all the reasons why it doesn't. And I
Mhm.
can give you
Mhm.
5 million examples. I'm not
Mhm.
saying you guys are bad. I'm
Mhm.
saying this is
Mhm.
why it doesn't work for me. And it's like this,
Mhm.
and it wasn't
Mhm.
represented that way either, because it was
Mhm.
like represented as this is why it's a good fit. And then
Yeah, yeah.
it did not work out that way. So yeah, I think belonging is really important. And then
Mhm. Mhm.
community is everything. I say community is my top core value.
Mhm.
And that comes from my personal background as well.
Mhm.
Like, very quickly, I was adopted before I was even born,
Wow, I
but the
didn't know
people
that.
who adopted me were very abusive. And I was in and
Mhm.
out of children's services. They relinquished custody of me to the state. I got emancipated. So I've
Mhm.
been on my own. So
Wow.
searching for that sense of belonging and community is
Mhm.
really important
Mhm.
to me. And
Mhm.
I found
Mhm.
a lot of
Mhm.
that in the workplace. The
Mhm.
workplace was a place where I felt like I mattered, where
Mhm.
I felt like I
Mhm.
was contributing to
Mhm.
something. This is where purpose and meaning can come into
Mhm.
play. And I don't
Yeah.
think work does not need to be your purpose. In
No.
fact, I
No.
don't think it should be your purpose for a lot
Yeah.
of people. But how do we create feelings of being purposeful at work? How do we
Mhm.
create the feeling of
Mhm.
accomplishment?
Mhm.
So I like to say that evil P word productivity, that's a
Mhm.
word I use with the C suite. That's a word I use in like
Yeah.
case studies. I
Mhm.
don't want to be told how productive I am. And it's like, do I feel accomplished when I leave work every day? Do I feel
Yes. Yeah.
to something?
I
Do
feel
I
like I made
understand?
an impact.
Yeah. Do I understand how the work I do contributes to the overall or success of the organization?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the purpose, the meaning, the mattering. It's like, and
Mhm.
we can create spaces like that,
Mhm.
tapping into people's unique skills and
Mhm.
talents. And again, everything's not for everyone.
Mhm.
And I think it's just being more aware of that. So even if certain
Mhm.
things are like the cultural norm at an organization, can you make an accommodation?
Mhm.
And that's coming to mind is I worked at a company who would do this like big offsite every year, and it's a couple days and people spend the night. But there were some people who don't enjoy that, and they were allowed to not spend the night there. They might have to come to like a specific meeting,
Yeah.
but they were allowed to opt out of some of the other things because
Mhm.
they just don't care for it, or maybe they're introverted, or maybe they really would just want to
Mhm.
be at home with their family.
Mhm.
And that's great. I think we need to, don't force people into things. It's like,
Mhm.
how do we work with one another? It's
Yeah.
basic humanity. So how do we get some humanity back into the workplace?
Yeah, yeah, humanity at just a very basic level. And I think that connects with, what you said in the beginning is like at a minimum workplaces should not cause harm. That's what I always think as a fitness instructor, in my previous roles. I'm like, at a minimum, we should not be causing harm to individuals. But maybe thinking of workplaces as ecosystems that create health is a little far-fetched for most organizations out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal state, that would be amazing if,
Yeah.
when we went to work, we felt better. I think if we leave at baseline, that would be a great place. I think if
Yeah,
we
I
get
do
to a
too.
workplaces just aren't causing harm. Like,
Yeah.
again, I think a lot of workplaces are like trying to really live in this individual space. And I'm like, that's also
Yeah.
not your job. Your job as a
Yeah.
company
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
do X.
Yeah.
So we want to support the individual, but really look
Yeah.
at what's within our control. And that's for everyone, right? As individuals, what's
Mhm.
within my control to
Mhm.
prioritize my health and
Mhm.
well-being,
Mhm.
manage my stress when I'm at work.
Mhm.
So can I choose to go take a walking break or do a
Mhm.
walking
Mhm.
meeting?
Mhm.
But does my organization provide a system
Mhm.
that if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm allowed to just take a quick little,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
not, I don't
Yeah.
have to clock in
Yeah.
and out, maybe not my
Yeah.
official break,
Yeah.
but I'm allowed to just take 5 minutes to
Yes.
decompress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where this
Yeah.
relationship comes into place
Yeah.
of I have to do these things myself, but is the
Absolutely.
organization
Yeah.
providing
Yeah. Yeah.
a system of support?
Oh yeah, system of support that is so key. And one thing I keen to talk about, when I talk about like implementing physical activity in the workspace with employers, it's like you may say they need to take a walk, but do you actually culturally, is it acceptable for somebody to get up and go for a walk? Do people feel like they could from a normative perspective,
100%. I always give an example of a bank that I worked with, and I will never forget. They were really focused on these walking
Mhm.
programs, and they were struggling to understand why people were not participating. And I
Mm,
went and visited them on site, and they had a dress code, a very strict dress code.
okay.
And
Yeah.
even call center employees who are not customer facing had to be like, and this was not business casual. This was very corporate. This was like slacks, dress shoes. And I was like, people are not going to go for a walk in dress shoes. Like if you can't,
Yeah.
I actually am kind of known for always being in tennis shoes, and
Same.
people think it's because I do wellness, but I'm actually disabled and I have to wear tennis shoes all the time. So like I'm wearing, and I remember starting a job and they were like, hey, so this is our dress code. And I was like, okay, well, I need an accommodation because like I physically need to be in tennis shoes
Yeah.
because I've had 5 foot surgeries.
Wow, I'm
But
sorry.
also, I'm more apt to go on a walk. If you're in dress shoes, you're
Yeah.
probably not going to like go for a 20-minute walk, like where I will because I'm in tennis shoes. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's little things. So the policies are important. It's really the systems. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, yeah, everyone's in dress shoes. Of course they're not going to go for a walk
No,
like
it seems like,
during their break.
yeah, and it almost seems obvious, but it's like I think sometimes people overcomplicate well-being, and wellness, and it's like sometimes the simple structural changes like giving people a break or, views of the outdoors or a space to go where there's less stimulation.
Yeah. Yes.
Um,
Oh my gosh, get rid of open offices. It's funny because I was working in Silicon Valley when a lot of that work was being done in research,
wow.
and a lot of the evidence was showing us that that design worked really well for agile software teams who were
Mm,
typically working on a sprint. They're working on a product, they're
yes,
meeting a
yeah.
deadline. So it's like this heavy collaboration, and then they're done, and then they move to like another team.
Okay, yeah.
But somehow like this got translated into like open office is good for people, and it's not. It's like
I
it does
know.
not work for the majority of people, and most organizations don't have the money to
They don't.
redesign an office and then redesign it again. It's kind of a
Yeah.
yeah, it's always silly to me what we grab onto as trends, I guess.
Yeah, and the research, shows this, and then it gets watered down into like that game of telephone, and then this is what
Yeah.
popular media and the wellness influencers and fitfluencers profess as the three major hacks you need to implement. Are there certain things that you're seeing in social media from a kind of workplace well-being space that you think need to be brought to light?
I love that you asked this question. So I started doing this just organically in 2019. And honestly, Natalie, I need to work with someone like you, like a PhD to help me like publish. I would love to like actually publish what I've been doing.
Okay, I'm
But
excited to hear about this.
I actually like I need to write a white paper, and I actually want to start like doing a weekly article. So I started doing
Wonderful.
this on myself, and I study how people talk about work on social media.
I
And so
love this. I love
every week
this.
I pull trends. You should see the folders I have. I
I,
have
I'm,
so
I'm
many things saved on all these channels. So
Wow.
during the pandemic, I got really deep into it. I was
Okay.
pulling and following a lot of conversations. Then I was pulling a lot of things from Twitter, from Reddit, and
Hmm.
from TikTok,
Hmm.
started to come up now. Now I pull a lot from TikTok. I pull a lot from Reddit still. Those are kind of the two, and LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
really. So I'm pulling a lot from those because people aren't really being real on LinkedIn. They're being corporate. So
Hmm.
how is the intergenerational workforce? I look for all different types of workers, all
Hmm.
different types of ages, backgrounds.
Hmm.
It's not just office
Hmm.
employees.
Okay. Okay.
Workplace wellness tends to focus on white collar office workers,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
every worker deserves well-being. And it's what are they saying about the workplace, good or bad? So
Hmm.
right now, this week, like last week and this week, like one of the big trends on TikTok is me when I'm getting ready to do my Netflix interview documentary about my workplace. So like it sets up and someone comes in very dressed up and it's like playing, they have the music, and it's like they're going to give an interview because so many people have had these absolutely chaotic stories from the workplace, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
drama. So that's a big trend right now. Or my God, when quiet quitting came up, so many people got it wrong. I was like so pissed off, to be honest. So the trend of quiet quitting, how it started was the person like on TikTok who started this trend was talking about how do we as workers create more work-life balance for ourselves? How do we take control
Yes. Yeah.
over our health and well-being? When the workday is done, we deserve
Mm.
to shut down. We
Yes.
deserve to
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
work life
Yeah.
balance. We
Yeah.
do not need to be on 24 hours a day. We shouldn't be answering
100%.
Slack or
Yeah.
Teams,
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So prioritize your well being. Take that
Hmm.
power, have healthy boundaries. Those are healthy boundaries. Hey, and that's the thing work is a contract, right? It's, I'm going to give you this labor for this pay. If
Hmm.
you're not paying me for these things, which is our contract, why should I? And
Right.
if you have
Right.
not
Yeah.
created a system where I'm
Hmm.
going to be rewarded for doing these things, well, then
Mm.
why would I? And
Yeah.
also, I'm going to be a better worker if I have boundaries and prioritize health and well being.
Yeah.
So it was all about self care, healthy
Hmm.
boundaries. It
Hmm.
wasn't about not doing your job. It wasn't, but it was about the boundary of like, well, why should I be available 24 hours a day? You're not paying me for that. Like, there's no
Yeah.
incentive for
Yeah.
me. All it's doing is causing me stress. And all these
Hmm.
people are like, oh, it's horrible. All these workers aren't working. They're quiet quitting. And I'm like, that's not the trend. It is not.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, is your workforce quiet quitting? And I'm like, you want your workforce to have healthy boundaries. You
Yeah.
want your
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
focus on their health and well-being so that way when they're at work they can be
It's
productive.
work. Yeah.
It's a contract at its
Yeah.
core.
Yeah.
Work is a contract of labor for pay.
Hmm.
So why would I do all of these things? And yeah, that's just logic for me. I mean, I also have a very logic driven brain, so
Hmm.
I got it. But yeah, that's what happens a lot, I think, where a trend will happen and then people interpret it incorrectly. So I
Hmm.
actually really live in these social media
I
spaces.
love
And
that.
it was funny on Reddit this past year for our summit. I really wanted to get people on the panel, and I'm always nervous about elevating a workplace when I don't know what's going on behind the curtain.
Yes,
Because
I think that's really
workplaces pay for
important.
a lot of things. A lot of awards are vanity awards. You're
Hmm.
paying to get them.
Hmm.
Did they pay for it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I put a thread on Reddit like, do you love where you work? Like, do you
Oh,
love where you
wow.
work?
Yeah.
Why do you love where you work?
Yeah.
And someone reached out, and her and I, we got into like a private message. She ended up
Okay.
being on our panel. And what was
Wow.
amazing, Natalie, is she was in engineering, like
Okay.
engineer background, worked in a 24/7 like systems manufacturing thing.
Yeah.
But she used all the words we look for. She was like, oh, my organization really supports me by giving me the autonomy
Oh,
to lead my.
wow. Okay.
Here are the resources they give me to empower my team.
Mm.
Here's how I create a psychologically safe space. Here are the policies we put into place in there. She goes, during hard times, we might experience things like layoffs. We have a policy that within 1 hour of anyone leaving, you have to physically tell your team. It has to be face to face. It has to be
Wow. That's so good. Yeah.
if something happens like a company restructuring where there's going to be
Hmm.
layoffs,
Hmm.
there are mental health counselors on site. They
Oh,
do,
that's so
it's
good.
not
Yeah.
perfect,
Yeah.
but it's trying to do it in the most humane way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I really appreciated that thought. So she was using these words we look for that we know autonomy is like,
Hmm.
a big indicator of satisfaction and health in the workplace,
Hmm.
and the empowerment. They were giving her the resources she needed to do her job. So it was really great to have her to talk about as a supervisor, how does she care for her team, how does she care
Yeah.
for herself,
Yeah.
how does the organization support her in her role.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I really spend a lot of time, several hours a week,
Hmm.
on social media just paying attention. Or I saw a
Hmm.
really positive one the other week where one young lady said, and then all the comments were amazing. She said her organization gave them, I don't remember the dollar amount, but maybe
Hmm.
like $250 a year for
Wow.
like creative outlets. So mastery. So
Yeah.
we know that
Wow.
mastery is
Yes. Yes.
using your brain on something that's not
Yeah.
work related but uses your brain is really
Hmm.
great to prevent burnout, to mitigate feelings of stress, prevent burnout. So she was like, oh, I paid for like this crochet class, and then I took this. So every year I
Hmm.
do something, and like every year,
Hmm.
one year I did crochet all year and I learned this, I learned how to paint. And then I see the comments and people are like, my workplace does this, we get this account, or we get this
Yeah.
many dollars a year to do these things. And it's like, it was like, $250. And yes, $250 times however many people you have might be a lot.
Yeah.
But think about that tiny bit of investment that made
Oh,
her
yeah.
feel so seen, so much
Hmm.
like she mattered, that she belonged, that
Hmm.
she made a
Hmm.
social media
That
post
they
that went
cared.
viral, you know,
Wow.
like the workplace can. And she's like, oh, this is so cool because I would really like to do this hobby, but maybe I don't want to spend money. But now, oh, cool,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
workplace actually
Yeah.
paid for it.
Wow. Yeah.
She associates that positive emotion with her workplace. That's going to make her feel more committed and bought in, and that she's cared
Yeah.
about. It's these little tiny things that we
It
can do. And
is.
it also doesn't have to cost money. It can also
It is.
just,
Yeah.
people think about wellness as I need to buy something. You can't buy your way into a healthy workplace culture.
No,
There is no,
no. Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
buy amazing things. It doesn't mean it's going
Yeah.
to change anything, but
Hmm.
it is that hard, messy human work. Like
Yeah.
I always give this example of a supervisor asking me, like, and I don't mean this to like dig on her or anything, because she was coming from a good place, but she said, "Hey, what's your favorite drink?" And I said, "Polar black cherry, polar seltzer black cherry. It's my
Oh,
favorite
yes, I
drink,
love that. Yeah.
hands down, like instant." And she's like, "Oh, well, that's not. Is that your favorite drink?" I was like, "Yeah, I drink like 2 or 3 of those a day. I
They're
love
so
seltzer,
nice.
love
Yeah.
love me sparkling
Yeah.
water with some flavor in it." And she was like, "Well, that's not very fun." And I was like, "Well, that's what I love." And she was like,
Yeah.
"Geez, I'm trying to figure out what to buy you for like
Oh, I
Christmas or whatever.
see.
I want to
Yeah.
buy you a drink." And I was like, "I don't really drink that
Hmm.
much. Like, I
Hmm.
don't really drink a lot of alcohol or anything." I was like, every now and then I might have a drink. And I was like,
Hmm.
honestly, the price of pullers went up. I was like, if you get me 6 cases of puller, I will be so happy.
I
I
know.
go,
I feel you on that.
and she bought me a bottle of liquor, which is unopened because I don't really drink. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I, you asked and I told you, like I
It was about
told
listening.
and it was
Yeah.
like, but you still just did what you wanted to do. It's like you didn't see me. It's like,
Yeah. It was about feeling seen.
and I was like, I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, I literally told you I don't really drink. And so now I have this. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much alcohol people have given me in my apartment. And I'm just like, okay, like, I used to drink a lot when I was younger, but I don't now. And I'm just like, okay, please don't buy me alcohol. Like,
Well, let
I
it be
don't,
known, everybody. Polar Black Cherry Seltzer. If you're listening,
sugar.
Polar,
Hey, yeah.
please
Now,
sponsor.
on the flip side, I will tell you, like the same company, it was a different supervisor, but I'm sure they were all in on it. She knew. I ended up having this crazy medical event, and I ended up having to have emergency life-saving surgery. I had this very
Oh
rare condition.
my.
The first night I was in the ICU, she sent ice cream via DoorDash to the
Oh,
ICU, and like the ICU nurse comes in with like 2 pints of ice cream and is like, "You're allowed to have these. We can't put it back in the freezer. Eat as much as you can." And I was like, I did. And then the first time she visited me after surgery, she brought French fries because like two of my favorite foods are French fries and ice cream. And
yeah.
it's like that made so seen, right? Like so seen.
Mhm.
So I had like, oh my God, that like I love ice cream. And so here I
Mhm.
am having this super hard time. You don't even know if I can eat it in the ICU, but you sent DoorDash ice cream to me.
Well,
Like
it's
how
yeah,
sweet was
it's the
that of like
mattering.
seeing, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like, and great people, it's like, again, yeah, it's so funny how humans are. So
Well, I do hope all the people listening heard that, we are allowed to, us wellness people, well-being
oh yeah,
people eat ice cream and French fries
oh my
because we
God,
believe
girl,
in enjoying life.
the Whole Foods sale just ended yesterday. I went back yesterday, and actually Jenny's ice cream is my favorite, and
Oh
I've been
yes,
saving all
our
the
Ohio connection. Yeah.
empty pints so people can see like my ice cream like disaster. Because I hit up Whole Foods yesterday. It was the last day of the 50% off sale, and I was like, let me stock up on some Jenny's.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, no, that's really some really good examples there, Chase, and I think that's really important. I just have a couple more questions if you don't mind,
Yeah,
and I think we're gonna have to
absolutely.
do another episode because
I
this has
talk a
been
lot.
really helpful. I know that you talk a lot about burnout. I know I've heard from some employers they don't believe it's a real thing, but we know that the World Health Organization recognizes it. I had one of my colleagues at Sheffield Hallam University, his whole field is in burnout and elite sport coaches in the UK, and one thing he talked about, and I think this relates to my question, is that people are often told, you need to meditate, you need to do yoga, you need to go for walks. So they're told to do all of these wellness things to bring themselves to help themselves improve their own wellness. But often that just adds on this stress. Or you have to be grateful, you have to have a good attitude, and it just creates more stress trying to be all these things and do all these things in addition to a job. So I know you talked a lot about non-toxic positivity and kind of the difference between healthy optimism and kind of dismissing real challenges about life just being hard sometimes. Why is this important when we talk about workplace well-being, and how can employers create that space to have those conversations?
Yeah, I feel like as a well-being professional, on one hand, I'm tired of talking about burnout, but on the other hand, burnout continues to rise.
Yeah.
And I'll talk with C-suite leaders who are so confused on why burnout is continuing to get worse. And
Hmm.
then I'll kind of explain to them why. And it's still like not, I'm like, because of you. I'm like, because you're putting in an RTO or return to office policy, and people are just sitting on Teams all day, and like
Yeah.
I don't know. So
Yeah.
burnout is real. We know that burnout is a systems issue. Like burnout comes from the workplace. Like there are all these indicators of burnout. It's time. It's workload, like time. It is being seen. Values alignment is one
Yep.
of them. So it's the workplace, right? The workplace
Mhm,
can
mhm,
control all of those things.
mhm, mhm.
I always say, yes, we have an individual responsibility to care for our own health
Absolutely.
and well-being, but the role of a
Mhm,
workplace is to at a bare minimum not make us
mhm.
worse.
Yeah,
So that's what we're trying to get
yeah.
to. So we're still having so much stress in the workplace. Like the APA, I
Mm,
always use their big research report every year
mhm,
on, stress in the
mhm,
workplace, mental health
mhm,
in the workplace. They always do
mhm,
a state of
mhm.
the workplace report is
Yes,
what it's
yeah,
called.
yeah.
So that's always a good one to look at. But stress continues to rise, burnout continues to rise. We need that.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's so funny you brought up the non-toxic positivity and that I told the story of the ice cream and French fries.
Yeah.
That same individual, and this is how I started,
Yeah.
like I really got into this topic, and I have a whole workshop on non-toxic positivity. Is I was having one of those no good, horrible, very bad like years.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had dealt with all these health things.
Yeah.
I had this week where my 19-year-old cat passed away.
Oh,
I happened to have a trip planned. I came back from my trip with norovirus.
oh gosh.
Everything
Yeah.
exits your body.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also came back to
Yeah.
like a 10% rent increase on my door, which is the
Oh
maximum
yeah. Yeah, I
amount
can
allowed to do
relate.
it.
Yeah.
So it's like it was so many things were going on in the world that
It
were making
was
me
a car wreck.
upset. It
Yeah.
was bad. So I was still coming into work and I had an office and I had like an all glass, like fishbowl office.
Mhm,
And usually I work with my, unless I'm in a meeting because I'm loud, obviously. I work with my door open, like everyone comes in, like I'm known as like,
mhm,
this is
mhm.
who you come to hug and talk to, obviously. But I was closing my door every day because I was overwhelmed, I was stressed, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was coming into work, I was doing my job. So
Mhm,
performance was
mhm,
still there.
mhm,
I just needed to prioritize my self-care. So my self-care was like, I can't deal with anything else right now, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my job, I'm going to
mhm,
leave. And she noticed. And so she came to my office and she said, "Hey, like,
mhm,
I noticed you've been having your door closed. You just don't seem as
mhm,
like happy. Like, what's going on?"
mhm,
High psychological safety, high trust. And I was
mhm,
like, yeah, well,
mhm,
like this is going on and this is going on and this is
mhm,
going on. And I'm
mhm,
like, crying a little bit. But what she said was,
mhm.
well, now, Chase, what if you were up on stage right now giving one of your presentations? What would you tell them to, get
Oh
out of it, snap out of
gosh.
it? And I said, well, I said, I wouldn't. I said, what I'm going through is normal. And I was like, you know,
Yeah.
we need time and space to
Mhm,
process our emotions.
mhm,
And I said,
mhm,
that's what I'm
mhm,
doing is I was like,
mhm,
I'm still coming in,
mhm,
I'm still doing my
mhm,
job, but
mhm,
like I'm
mhm,
working through all these things.
mhm,
And I was like,
mhm,
I'm gonna be fine. I'm
mhm,
gonna get through
mhm,
the other
mhm,
side. But
mhm,
I was like,
mhm,
that's non-toxic
mhm,
positivity.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I've been
mhm.
in probably her position too. I'm sure I've said the
Sure,
wrong thing to
sure.
people.
Yeah.
If we care about someone, like she did, I knew she
Yeah.
cared about me. So she
Yeah.
doesn't want to see me upset. It makes her
Yeah.
uncomfortable to see me. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
she's trying to do the right thing to like, but
Yeah.
that's not what we need. What we need is
It's not.
empathy, understanding, just listening, time and space.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
it is on both sides too. It's on us to
mhm,
learn how to ask
mhm.
questions of
Sure,
like,
sure,
man,
sure.
Natalie, what you shared with me earlier, that sounds really hard. How can I support you right now? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
because like me, I've never had children. So when people are going through family things and like
Yeah.
I didn't have a normal family dynamic. So I'm like when people
Same.
like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like
Yeah, I can relate to
but
you.
like I'm like, how can I support? Like, is there anything I could do for you right now?
Mhm,
Like, because I don't know what to do.
yeah.
And it's I think when you can be there for someone during a hard time
Mhm,
again,
mhm, mhm.
they're gonna feel that more loyalty. They're gonna want to do a
Yes.
better
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
she wasn't doing anything wrong. I knew it was coming from a good place, but it was still like,
Yeah.
are you? I was like, no. And then she just didn't get it either. I think when I was telling her that, I was like, no, that's not okay. We don't tell people that. So I think that is like a very cultural thing here is like, we don't let people ever feel sad or anxious,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
down.
And
And those are normal human emotions.
well, like the APA definition or whatever, it's a normal like human reaction to prolonged stress. Like this is normal. If we think, I think because we still conceptualize burnout as a mental health thing, but there are actual physical responses. I don't know about you, but
Oh,
all the times that I've been sick, it's when I've been stressed with like work or life. And it's like, I'm still amazed as somebody that's studied physiology. It's like our bodies react in such weird ways and we think we've got a hold on it. Like I've got this together, but our bodies will tell us different. And to just sit,
yeah.
tell to someone, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And I was delivering workshops for many years at Sheffield Hallam on, workplace well-being for line managers. A lot of that is teaching them high level stuff on emotional intelligence. empathy, and then role playing some conversations on motivational interviewing, and then signposting, okay, what is your role in this? You're not expected to be a coach, a counselor, a doctor, a mental health professional, but you are expected to hold the conversation, which is without jumping in with your own experience. And I think that's where you highlighted your manager, although she meant well, was trying to fix
Yeah.
you. You just need to
Yeah.
sit with your discomfort.
Yes. I knew it was coming from a good place. And I'm like, that,
Yeah.
it's like, but that was not what I needed in that moment.
No.
It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
it was like, hey, like, oh God. And she just wanted to hurry up and fix it and wanted to hurry up and fix me.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need healthy optimism is like, how are we going to work through it? Like, how can I support you
Mhm.
during this hard time? And as humans,
Yeah.
human experience is hard.
It's
We're
just
all going
hard.
to
It's
go
just hard to
through
human.
yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
all go through grief and loss and medical
Yeah.
issues, like
Yeah.
health things are gonna come up for us. And when a workplace can just be understanding during that time.
Yes, I know.
I
I
have
know.
another quick story that
Oh,
this is
please. I love
very
your stories.
recent. Is
Yeah.
I was speaking at a conference last year in Hawaii. Like how amazing!
Wow.
And so I'm there and I'm kind of at the hotel and I'm in this little hot tub with all these people and I see, one of the couples and she has a little bride bag and I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, you just got
Mhm.
married. Like congratulations." And we
Mhm.
start talking and they ask me what I do for work. I'm telling them
Mhm.
and they were like, "Yeah, so we didn't really have a wedding. We crowdfunded. We're doing this like amazing 2-week vacation. We've never been to Hawaii. We're like so happy." And I was like, "Oh, that's so great. You were able to take that time off work and like how amazing." And he goes, "Well, actually, I lost my job." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, they wouldn't give me the 2 weeks off. So I actually don't have a job to go back to. And he's like, "It really sucks. I loved working there." He's like, "I really liked working there. I was doing a good job." And he goes, "But I told him," and he goes, "I didn't need to get paid. I asked him for 2 unpaid weeks off." He goes, "I just
Yeah.
asked him if
I've
I could
been
come
there.
back. And they told
Hmm.
me no." And he goes, "So, I'm not going back to a job. And that really sucks." And I was like, yeah. And it costs so much money to replace someone. We know it costs
Yeah.
on average at least 1.5 times for like
Hmm.
a frontline worker. And then as you go up, it gets even more and more
Hmm.
expensive. But I'm like, if that workplace would have just said, "Hey, congratulations. Yeah, it's going to
Hmm.
be really hard. We're going to be short staffed these next couple
Hmm.
weeks, but hey, everyone, this person's
Hmm.
going to be gone." They didn't ask
Hmm.
for paid time off. They just asked for time off. And then when you
Yes.
come
Yeah.
back, like how grateful he would have been. He would, "Oh man." And I quickly tried to like maneuver the conversation because I don't want to stress him out,
Yeah.
but he was
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that then his whole
Yeah.
vacation and honeymoon of like, "Man, I got to go get a new job when I get home." That sucks.
Yeah, I know, I know. It's really hard. I was in similar situation. I think we've all been in that situation, which probably brings rich experience and passion to what you know about the evidence in this field. And it's great that you're able to to sit there with him. But it's just, yeah, I think what you said, the human condition is hard. We can't just shut off being a human when we show up to work. But these things don't have to be separate. We don't, I think employers that want to try to micromanage or control an employee's experience with and on the flip side, but creating an organization that supports people to feel that they can show up as human is actually going to help them to be with the organization longer and mitigate that attrition.
Yes,
How can you get
absolutely.
employers to recognize this?
Gosh, I think some do. I think there is a lot of great work being done. I mean, I
Mhm.
think we also have to remember that small businesses run the US. The majority of businesses are
Yeah,
small.
yeah,
And being a small
yeah.
business doesn't mean you're great. Like there be toxicity at any size, but we tend to only focus on stories from really large corporations.
Yes, that is
I
great.
Yeah, we just use money. I mean, I'm sorry, like I'll crap on Amazon all day. That's a horrible place to work. It's like I have not heard anything good out of there. And that's one of the most profitable organizations out
Yeah,
there. And you're
yeah,
not taking
yeah,
care of your human labor. So, I try to make conscious business decisions, but of
yeah.
course, I think we cannot police people like that. Hey, people need to shop at Amazon. That's a privilege I have to choose to not do to support them. Other people don't have that choice. But I think there are good businesses out there.
Mhm, mhm,
I think it has to start with authentically wanting to change.
mhm, mhm,
And that's, I think, also where my passion comes from. I've had the privilege of working with organizations where,
mhm,
I'm a consultant, I'm an advisor. They're
mhm,
the ones
mhm,
doing the hard work. But
mhm.
I've really had the privilege of working with organizations who say, "We really want to fix things. we really want to
Mhm.
create an environment. I remember
Mhm.
working with an amazing plumbing company one time, and the owner was just like, he's like, Chase, like, this is a hard job. He goes, it's
Mhm.
physical labor. And he goes, I only have so many desk jobs I can give people. And he goes,
Mhm.
when people get older, their backs start
Mhm.
to hurt, their knees start to hurt. He goes, I want to keep them physically healthy because if they can't work, he goes, they support their families. And he goes,
Mhm.
he cared so much. And he's like,
Wow.
what can we
Yeah.
do to like try to really support things? And,
Mhm.
I worked with an amazing healthcare organization that was the same way, where they said, okay, gosh, we're having all these things happen.
Mhm.
What do we need to do to change? And they had to look
Mhm.
internally at themselves, and they did the work. They
Yeah.
changed policies, they changed systems, they changed
Yeah.
approaches. And nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
again,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, every workplace isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You have to tie it back to what organizations care about. And this is when I
Mhm.
do like corporate chase. So I will tell you, uh,
Okay, there she goes. Here's Corporate Chase. She's entered the chat.
this is like what I'll do. I'll be like, Natalie, it's been amazing to learn about your organization and take a
Yeah.
look at things. And I've been able to look at your financials and look at maybe your healthcare
Yeah.
claims, your disability
Yeah.
claims, and this engagement survey and this index and all this. And here's what I've been able to identify. And I think if we could do these things, these are
Uh-huh.
the outcomes we could see, and
Mhm.
this is the financial impact it could have. And let's say we did something like, I'm going to use pay as an example,
Mhm.
because I had the opportunity
Mhm.
again to work with an organization who worked in like assisted living, lots of
Mhm.
CNAs, lots of tends to be low wage workers working in the cafeteria, a lot of,
Mhm.
closer to minimum wage. And
Mhm.
we looked at the MIT living wage calculator,
Mhm.
and they had to do a lot of work, a lot of accounting, really worked
Mhm.
with the CFO to find a way to increase wages. And they did.
Yeah.
And when they did that, they saw attrition drop. People didn't
Wow.
have, they
Wow.
saw attendance improve because people were
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I don't have to have a second job anymore, or I
Yes. Yeah.
can pay for childcare. So this little, and now we had to do a lot of accounting. I mean, this was not an easy thing to do to increase
Mhm.
wages in this
Mhm.
way, but we really did the work and did the modeling, and we're able to
Mhm.
look at it and say, hey, we know that these issues are happening. And then talking to the
Mhm.
workforce, a lot of
Mhm.
employee listening,
Mhm.
people were like, well, I have to do this because of this,
Mhm.
or I'm working three jobs, or
Mhm.
looking at
Mhm.
the issue.
Mhm.
So what is within the
Mhm.
organization's control? Of course, you do have to look
Yes.
at
Yeah.
profit margins. Are they
Yeah.
successful enough? They
Yeah.
were able to find a way to get there,
Uh-huh.
and they saw that financial reward. So what organizations care about more than anything does tend to be profit. And
Yeah.
we all want paychecks. I don't know about you. I want a paycheck when I'm working somewhere. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
organizations. We need healthy, thriving organizations that support our economy, and we need healthy humans inside them. Like, that work doesn't happen by itself.
Yeah.
It's humans making it do it. AI cannot
Yeah.
do everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think that's what, as practitioners, you have to learn how to do is,
Mhm.
how do you look at these different data points? What evidence can we pull from? Like, what research can we pull from to do modeling
Yeah.
and really
Yeah. Yeah.
uncover? And it's different at every organization. I like to say
Absolutely. Yeah.
all models are useful, all models are
Mhm.
wrong. There's no one
Mhm.
right way to do this work.
Mhm.
There are best
Mhm.
practices,
Mhm.
but how I work
Mhm.
with organizations, the strategies and interventions we
Mhm.
implement, it can be so widely varied because
Yeah.
they don't have the same issues. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we really show the business case, and that's where you
Mhm.
have to get this practice of, have you worked on the healthcare side before? Do you understand how to look at claims
Mhm.
data? Do you understand
Mhm.
what's realistic? Because
Mhm.
there's this thing called trend. You're going to likely get an
Mhm.
increase every year because they want
Mhm.
to be a profitable
Mhm.
insurance company.
Mhm.
But is there
Mhm.
opportunity for steerage?
Mhm.
Is there
Mhm.
opportunity for education? We know
Mhm.
health literacy is something we can move the
Mhm.
needle on. Then
Mhm.
organizationally, like, again, what can we do on the organization
Mhm.
side?
Mhm.
So I think we have to show businesses really the business
Mhm.
case. I think when we
Mhm.
look at high performing organizations,
Mhm.
I would like to see, though, more case studies showing your everyday business more,
Yes.
because I think it's hard
So,
for smaller business to conceptualize, because they're
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we're not a global multi-billion-dollar company, or we're making $1 million a year and having this many employees.
Mhm.
Like, we're nowhere near that level of revenue, or like restaurant industry, slim profit
Mhm.
margins, like very, very thin profit
Yes. Yeah.
margins.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't, like, there literally isn't the money to do certain
I
things.
know. I
So
know.
it's really just, I think, but I think if you want to have it's business 101.
Yeah.
What are the values, like mission, vision, values? What do we do? How are we going to operate? Because that's what core values should do. That should be how you make decisions and operate. And your culture is the worst behavior you tolerate, you know? And so if you
Yeah.
say your core value is X, but you operate like Y, values misalignment. So yeah, it's a lot of business 101. And I will say I'm seeing a lot of progress on the education side. I'm seeing a
Okay.
lot more
Good,
higher
good.
education institutes
Hmm.
put these things into their business programs. So I feel
Yes.
like
Yeah.
business leaders are
Yeah.
learning,
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen
yeah,
that too.
but it's how do we come together? And again,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
think tank is for everyone. Think tank,
Yeah.
most think tanks are we're these 8 individuals who are going to tell you. And
Groupthink.
our
Yeah.
think tank is community driven. Our think tank is that
Yeah.
we all have a seat at the table because
Hmm.
that's how we make progress is through the
Hmm.
diversity of voices. And yeah, I'm just yammering though. So
No, no, I love your yammering. This is brilliant. Similar to my experience at the Global Wellness Institute. I know you're connected with Jessica Grossmeyer. It's like yesterday, it was like we're able to have critical dialogue about, well-being, how we measure it, what matters. And yesterday I was just thinking, this is great that we're able to have this conversation, that all of us aren't thinking the same when we challenge and check each other. And it sounds very much like the Wellbeing Think Tank, and that's what we need.
yeah.
And the recognition that small businesses, medium-sized businesses kind of are the backbone of America, and they run differently and it's harder, and there's not enough maybe case studies or evidence or examples to highlight how well-being can be, effectively, or run in an organization of that size. And I think we do need more examples like that.
Yes. How
I
is it going to help your business? I do want to give one more quick thing
Yes,
here.
please.
I also see this a lot on the public sector
Hmm.
because they're like, well, these are taxpayer dollars. So we can't do wellness programs on the clock. We can't let people go for walks
Oh.
because taxpayer dollars support ourselves. But when we have research that shows when people take a little break, they're actually going to be more productive. They're going to serve the community better if we're taking care of them. So I do think the
Mm-hmm.
public sector is also something I'd
Hmm.
really like to see more. That's what I always hear from leadership in the public sector. We can't do it. Taxpayer dollars pay our salaries. That's a
Hmm.
misuse of public funds. And but it's like, okay, we're not like buying everyone a Lamborghini or whatever. It's like we have
Yeah,
some
yeah,
time for self-care. And I do
yeah.
understand like they're very scrutinized, but I think the public needs to understand that this is good. And then how do we get public entities? Because that is a
Mhm,
huge part of business is our public sector, is our
mhm.
municipalities, our cities, our states, our governments. It's like we need them to run well.
Yes, yeah. And I think it's like to you and I, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like, well, hello, if people are healthier, happier, more productive, more engaged, there's less attrition, that's going to save taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
But I think just going back to your other point, it's like you were talking about we need to get good at like kind of it's like having these conversations with these businesses, showing examples of how it works. And I think also speaking, you said every business has different kind of needs, speaking the
Yeah.
language and providing, I mean, the metrics that can highlight the return on investment, hey, the return on investment or benefits of the well-being for the decision makers, because
Yeah.
they might speak a different language necessarily than you and I, but we need to be able to translate that.
Yes, that's so much of the work I do and what I give advice to practitioners is like you really have to ask the questions of, the first two questions I usually ask are you say you want to create a culture of well-being or you're
What does it
concerned
look
about
like?
health and wellness of your workforce. Tell me what that means to you. Like tell me what
Mm-hmm.
that looks like. And yeah, it's like and then you have to kind of figure out what is most important to them. And then
Hmm.
as a practitioner, then that's where we build the business case. And I think we
Hmm.
have to if they're really focused on moving the needle on this little
Hmm.
thing, we have to put all of our intention there so we
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
really get a win. And then once we
Hmm.
get a win, we can get more buy-in for other things
Yes,
that we know
yeah.
will move the needle even more.
Hmm.
So it's really understanding what's important to them, what's success. And then
Hmm.
I always say, 12 months from now, when we're sitting here, Natalie,
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
does success look like? What are the
Hmm.
three things we need to achieve so you know that this
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
successful? So when I
Hmm.
do strategies, that's the business
Hmm.
problem we're solving, whatever they said was most
Yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah.
Everything we build is around getting those three outcomes. So that
Hmm.
way we can show in that first 12 months, hey, look at what we
Hmm.
did.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then they're more likely to take my advice
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was able to identify what was most important to them,
Hmm.
move the
Hmm.
needle on issues. We clearly defined at
Hmm.
the beginning what success
Hmm.
looks like. You
That's
said
really
this was
important.
the metric.
Yeah.
So identifying the metrics of like
Hmm.
what does success
Hmm.
look like? What data are we going to use?
Hmm.
How are we going to say this was successful? So I don't think we do a good job as practitioners of
No.
doing some of those things. Like we're like, I'm running all these successful programs, or this many people participated, or look at this, or
Mhm,
look at this.
mhm,
But that's not how they're defining success. So yeah, it is understanding how to get into these rooms, ask questions, do a lot of that
mhm,
inquiry.
mhm.
And okay, this is how I'm going to go in and approach this
Mhm.
meeting, which looks very different than when we're running maybe the well-being for at an organization.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You've got such a unique set of experiences, many of that we didn't even dive into today that I'm sure have influenced your work, but also, some really effective, ways that, oh, well, some really helpful ways that employers can think about well-being, think about, at a minimum, they should not cause harm. And, kind of what does success look like when we talk about well-being? What are some actions we can take? And, well-being isn't just about profit, and what kind of well-being means versus wellness. There's just so much. Is there any like one tip for the well-being leads or those managing well-being in organizations who are listening today that could just take away, besides all of that wonderful information?
Gosh, I do think the last thing we just touched on, that is something I would recommend if you're
Mhm,
leading well-being at your
mhm,
organization and you're struggling with it.
mhm,
Have you had the opportunity to have that conversation with that
mhm,
highest level of like, what does it mean? What does success look like? Tell me what
mhm,
this means to you for us to do this. What does
mhm,
success look like?
mhm,
I do think that's going to help you do your job and be more
mhm,
effective and get those
mhm,
wins. And again, when you can show leadership that you can move the needle on what
mhm,
they care about most, that's when then you can start to get more buy-in for the things you
mhm,
want to do. And you're like,
mhm,
well, I really want to, I know this is going to be effective. I know this would
mhm,
have an impact, but they're not going
mhm.
to give me resources for it.
Yeah, until we have some
Yeah,
success.
get that win there and then move on there. And then it is, I mean, I'm going to do a plug for Think Tank, I think, because
Yeah, yeah,
come hang out with us. It's free
yeah,
to be a part of our
yeah,
community.
yeah.
And I think when you're in this work, it can feel really isolating. Like my job is
Mhm,
trying to convince people to be decent humans. Like my
mhm,
job is
mhm,
trying to get companies to care, which is
mhm,
very hard. So,
mhm.
I think, and I say that because it's refilling your own cup, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I do think a lot of people in workplace wellness, they might have some things. I do see people like maybe nourishing or moving their
Mhm,
bodies. I don't
mhm,
think we do. I do think we tend to care about our work a
mhm,
lot. We tend to get
mhm.
very emotionally traumatized because we care so deeply. We want to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
a difference. And I think
Mhm,
we forget to take that step back and like,
mhm,
I did get a win here, or I did
mhm,
do that.
mhm,
Or look at if you impacted one person at your work site, you
mhm.
have done a great job.
Yeah,
You've changed one life. So
yeah.
great job. So that's why I wanted to pitch it, because I think sometimes it's nice to be in community with other people who just get
Mhm,
it, and then it
mhm,
replenishes yourself as well. So I
mhm,
think don't
mhm.
forget to replenish yourself, which is something
Yeah.
I deeply struggle with. I am always working on of how do I prioritize my own well-being so I
Mhm,
can take
mhm,
care and do all these other things. But
mhm,
yeah, don't forget about yourself either and
mhm,
like your needs, and just know that
mhm,
this work does really matter. Even when
mhm,
you feel like you're not getting to do what you want to do,
mhm,
you're having an impact, even if
mhm,
it doesn't
mhm,
always
mhm.
feel like it. So
Yeah.
I really want people to take that time with themselves and celebrate themselves. Like claps
Mhm,
for everyone out there doing this work.
mhm.
So
Oh, well, thank you so much, Chase. And yeah, thanks everybody who's joined us for Wellness in the Real World today. Thanks for your time for listening, and all of the contact information for Chase and more about the Wellbeing Think Tank will be in the show notes. So please do let us know what you thought, and join us next time on Wellness in the Real World, where we try to break down the gaps between what the research shows, what the public needs to know, and what really matters. All right. Bye bye. Take care.